to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Works out by Burke, bounces into Cody, puts it up, scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in on this Friday. TGIF. It is beautiful outside. We've got college football back. We've got lots of college football this weekend. Indiana's on the road, opening up their season in big style at Iowa. Last night we had games on TV, the Big Ten game, Ohio State, Minnesota on Indiana's schedule. You saw two of Indiana's opponents last night. Both of them look pretty good. That adds to Indiana's schedule. Don't forget, Minnesota is on Indiana's schedule. So you've got Iowa, Cincinnati, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Purdue. That's the schedule Indiana's playing this year. It's one of the toughest around. It's one of the I think it's a top 10 toughest schedule in the country, without question. So anytime you play in the Big Ten East, you have a chance to have that opportunity of having the toughest schedule in the country just because of that on its own. But when you add in the fact that your added games are again on the road against Iowa, against Minnesota, against Cincinnati, makes life difficult. The Buckeyes went on the road last night. They went to Minnesota, a game that Minnesota led at the half, 14-10. But I saw a lot of people getting excited, and I'm like, a lot of game left, guys. Indiana led Ohio State after three quarters a few years ago to open the season, and they scored the next three touchdowns. They did kind of that last night. They scored 14 unanswered points, but in the second half of that game, they scored 5 times. They scored one touchdown in the first half, Ohio State. In the second half, 5 touchdowns. Trust me, when you play teams like that, it's not over till it's over. That's why they're just deep. You saw a freshman quarterback for Ohio State with his first game. So he's got that in. Time for the big show. I love it. Pete, up in Minnesota, what's going? I hope the weather's good up there, brother. Dwayne says good morning. Hey, David. Says he's going to put this out there. Never in his 45 years of life has he been ready to watch IU football. Hello. I had somebody else send a message the other day that he's lived in Bloomington for 35 out of his 40 years. He said for 35 of his 40 years, he has never, ever seen it like this. It's different, guys. It is different. Pete says the Ohio State-Minnesota game reminded him of past IU years where they would hang in for a half, then the D breaks down. Hopefully the D is stronger than that. Ross said, looks like the Cincinnati game is a sellout. Not surprised there. They were getting closer and closer to that. Tim's on his way to Red River Gorge this morning. Yeah, it's a holiday weekend for most of you. For those of us who have to work, I'll be driving to Iowa today, working all day tomorrow at the game, and then driving back on Sunday. There's my holiday weekend. What do you got planned for the weekend? Tim's got to find a bar in UK country to watch the IU game. Yeah, good luck with that. That ain't going to happen. Unless there's no other game on. Although I don't know. That's a good game. But there are a lot of good games probably at that time of day on Saturday, 3:30. It's a 3:30 kickoff. I'll have to pull those up in a minute. see who else is playing tomorrow. But we've got on the program today, Alec Lasley. We're going to go over, we'll do some basketball recruiting. Got to get that updated. Tom Kakert from Iowa Rivals is going to join us. So we're going to get a look from the other side. My view from the Iowa fan base is that they're giving Indiana a little bit of respect that it's going to be a good game, but that's about all. I don't think that they think that they're really going to lose this game. And I'm going to be surprised if Indiana doesn't win the game. I think they're just better on both. I just think they're better on both sides of the ball. They've gotten better. Their defense has gotten better. I think that they're just fans of opponents are just hoping that the questions about Michael Penix are hanging out there. But I'm trying to read one of these messages. I don't understand it. But Alan, good morning from Salina Lakes Campground. Indian Salina Lakes. Well, that's cool, wherever that is. You guys are getting out and about, man. Hope you're having yeah, man, that would be a nice weekend to have. What are you guys doing for the weekend? Anybody going? All right. Who's going to the Cincinnati game? Who's not going to the Cincinnati game but would like to, because we're going to be able to give away some tickets next week, courtesy of a unknown generous person. But they don't want to be revealed, and we won't. But so some lucky person is going to get to go to that game. That's a sellout. The Cincinnati, it's an Idaho game. Man, I got to getting too many things going on right now. We've got tickets for the Idaho game to give away to you. So that is before the Cincinnati game. But you guys need to go to that Idaho game too, man. The Cincinnati game is going to be great, but the first home game is the Idaho game when they return after playing this week on the road at Iowa, which looking forward to that. Lots of other games tomorrow. But last night, some scores. I mentioned that Ohio State, they end up winning that 45-31 over Minnesota. Coastal Carolina, all right, last year they were getting some love. They're number 22 this year. Ohio State's number 4. They blasted the Citadel 52-14. Utah, number 24, 40-17 over Weber State. Arizona State, 41-14 over Southern Utah. Yeah, these are nice non-con games for number 25, Ohio State. Nice non-con games for all these guys. Getting that in. Saturday, Oklahoma opened up with Tulane, Penn State, and Wisconsin. That's going to be a good game. Wisconsin is a 5.5-point favorite at home on Penn State. Man, that's a game that if I was betting, it's very attractive to me. And then I've talked about that Fresno State game. They travel to Oregon. Kalen DeBoer. He's got 20.5 points to work with. Man, just like him. And then you got number 1 Alabama going to Miami. The Indiana game, of course, is at 3:30. That's on the Big Ten Network, by the way. Cincinnati, unfortunately, playing at the same time, but I need to record that game. Remember to do that. They're hosting Miami of Ohio at the same time at 3:30. And then Iowa's next opponent, Iowa State, is playing Northern Iowa at 4:30. Texas plays tomorrow. They're playing Louisiana, USC, Clemson, and Georgia. There's your big game. I cannot wait to I hope I get to see that. I hope I get to see that game. That could be a good starter. Don't forget high school football tonight. Tons of high school football games out and about. Go out and see your high schools. Support those guys. David hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. When was the last time IU basketball and football had so much hype for the same season? It's a good time to be a Hoosier fan. Yep. Welcome aboard, David. Glad to have you listening. But yeah, it's not just those two programs. Like I've said, the athletics program at Indiana right now is as good as it's probably ever been in the history of the school. I mean, go back. I'm asking people. You tell me. When was there a time? And because it's easy to eliminate. Because when you add on IU football, that eliminates most of the years. But when was a time where IU football, IU basketball, IU women's basketball, men's, women's soccer, all ranked? Baseball, swimming and diving. Those are all ranked programs. That's never happened to my life. Indiana soccer, number 1. They got a victory over Butler this week. The women's soccer program is doing well. I know they got another win. Yeah, it's not just, but yes, to answer your question, David, no, never. You'd have to go back to the 80s, but that wasn't this. I mean, Bill Mallory era was fun, but it took a while to get started, and you had the 87 national championships, so things were going well then. Basketball was still at a very, 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 very high point, of course. But football was not at this level. So, yeah, that answers that question. Some other games. LSU is an 8:30 game, taking on UCLA Saturday. And then Sunday, there's no NFL games. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Florida State. So you've got that going on, if you like. What else is going on with you guys? Looking forward to getting Alec on here and talking about some recruiting. Some visits have been set up. There's just a lot going on. Another offer goes out to a Finnish point guard, Miro Little. I cannot wait to talk about this. He's a 2023 point guard. 6'4". He's during the 16 and under FIBA European Championships, he averaged almost 10 points and 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 38% on threes, and his best game was a 23-point outing against Hungary when he went 5 of 5 from deep. Dude, they're going all over the place to recruit. Everywhere. If that doesn't tell you that, we'll talk more about that with Alec Lasley, but we'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Don't forget, get your Honda now. You can order it. Go online, andymoorehonda.com. Get that Honda ordered. It'll be waiting for you when you're ready. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I have a couple clips from Tom Allen's press conference from yesterday in case you needed them. I know you don't need them anymore, but you do have one more segment where you're by yourself. So
Yes, then that's when we will play that.
there you go.
Do we have any other clips?
I have the one that we talked about with Vaughn Dunbar from earlier this week. And then the ones from yesterday, are your question that you asked.
I meant any other clips of anybody else.
Like highlight clips or other, what do you mean?
Sound clips?
Oh, you mean from players or somebody?
Yeah, they're all the different pressers that.
Yeah, I have a couple from Penix and one from Micah McFadden too.
Good morning, Alec. Can you hear us?
It says he's muted.
Oh, he's saying, hold on. He's doing something, I guess.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Just technology nowadays just takes a little extra second to connect to the AirPods in the morning for some reason.
Oh.
I got to get some of those.
Yeah, never thought I would actually use them. Like 2 years ago when they first, or however long it was when they first came out. But yeah, I quickly changed that mindset. They're much better than normal headphones, that's for sure.
I wonder if the ones I don't have AirPods, but the ones I have, I wonder if they have a microphone on them.
Are they cordless or no?
Yeah.
Then they should.
They're in the other damn room. I took them off of here because I was going to pack them away, and I can't remember what I flipping did with them. Could be in the car. I don't know.
All right,
no, nothing.
What? Oh, go ahead, Jen. You got a couple seconds if you need to say something.
With Matt, nothing. No, I find out about everything at the last second.
Here we go.
Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. It is Friday. Hope you're ready for the weekend. Tons of sports going on, mostly football, of course, but that's okay. We've been waiting for college football, but there is tons to talk about with college basketball. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joins us now. Alec, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
It's Friday, brother. I am happy as I can be. Saw that Indiana spanning the globe to make offers now, extending an offer for a 2023 point guard from Finland, Miro Little.
Yep. They extended that yesterday. That's a Dane Fife lead. So I'm sure Dane likes going out to Europe to span the globe a little bit and check out some prospects internationally. But this is one that no one really knows a ton about. Obviously, still 2023, still pretty young when it comes to his kind of basketball development. But he's a good player. He has a really good Big Ten body already. 6'4" point guard. So he has the size, he has the length. He has really good athleticism as well. And when you look at that from an international perspective, some of those guys coming over, you can't really tell sometimes what they really look like on film, because some of the competition levels over there are just not as great as over here when it comes to the younger age groups, right? But I think you have to give the benefit of the doubt to this staff, and especially Dane Fife. I don't think he's going to tell Mike Woodson to extend an offer to someone if they both don't truly believe that he's a Big Ten player. Programs like Arizona, Gonzaga, Wisconsin, Arizona State, I believe, ton of Power 5 high major programs are involved with him, but Indiana was the first one to actually pull the trigger and extend that offer. So this one still has a long ways before going anywhere, but it's obviously another name that you can add to the at least the point guard list for 2023s for Indiana.
And man, the offers are flying. As I shouldn't say flying, but they have not been shy about offering kids. And we've talked about this before, that the goal is to go at two people for every position and let the best man win, so to speak, because their goal is to get the best players they can absolutely get, period. So they're being recruited over and all that stuff. That's out the door. Yeah, you have to fight for everything. But keeping harmonious, they're still wedging in the personalities from old, new, and future. So it's almost three different groups that are coming together there.
Yeah, I think you look at it that way, but you also look at it as, I think Mike Woodson's done a tremendous job kind of molding that mindset of the returning players already into exactly what he wants out of his group. So I think a lot of that mentality was just completely broken end of the last staff era, right? So, I mean, they came in kind of basically new with a totally fresh mindset. And I think that really helped kind of mold that mindset of this current group. So I think you have a lot of that Mike Woodson kind of fingerprint and handprint on this current roster. Obviously, bringing in some of these other guys through the transfer portal, that may have taken a little bit longer to kind of shift them into gears in terms of kind of what IU's looking for, what Mike Woodson is looking for, just because they've had, maybe multiple other coaches in the past as well. But I think the ability that Mike Woodson's been able to bring together this team pretty well already, when you have a lot of different personalities, a lot of new guys on the roster, and a lot of guys who are going to be playing a much different role than kind of what they've used to been playing in current, and in previous situations before they got into IU. And I think he's done a great job with that. So I don't think there's going to be any trouble, if you're spanning the globe, bringing guys in from an international perspective, or from Indiana, or from, out in California. I think just what he's able to do, and that's connecting with players, and players want to see a coach who not only connects with them, but just kind of what it takes to play at the highest level and coach at the highest level. And I think there's a mutual respect there that maybe you didn't have with previous coaches or anything like that. So I think Mike Woodson is going to do quite well when it comes to putting together a team like that, just because he had that experience in the NBA.
Ross asks, all this point guard recruiting has to affect Christian Lander, and you do have to wonder about that, only because normally it's not a situation I would wonder about, but he was a kid that was brought in too early. He was coaxed in here by Archie Miller. Should not have happened. He did. I hope that this has not screwed up his college experience. His what he can do, what he should have been able to do. But I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what's going on, that they're just trying to work with him, and but there has to be an effect.
Yeah, I would say there is, but at the same time, a lot of the guards now that Indiana has that are going to be playing significant minutes outside of Tamar Bates are upperclassmen. So you still need to continue to recruit and continue to bring in guys who are going to, be freshmen and sophomores and continue to fill that pipeline of guards. And Mike Woodson is a guy who he's shown already just in the 2 games in the Bahamas and how he's recruited so far. He wants to be very guard heavy and play almost 3 guards on the floor at one time, multiple times in the game. So you're going to need multiple legs, multiple different players back there, especially as a point guard and especially as a main ball handler. And I think it would be more beneficial for Christian Lander to play with a true point guard and let him do a little bit more of the creativity off of the dribble and look more for his scoring ability than I think maybe his playmaking ability for his teammates. And a lot of these point guards that Mike Woodson and the Indiana staff are offering as of late are true point guards, much more of that pass first floor general aspect. 2 names with Gabe Cupps and Jeremy Fears, especially. Those are 2 significant kind of floor general top point guards that they don't need to score a lot of points to impact the game. And I think that's something that Christian Lander hasn't learned yet. Not due to his fault, just because he was much more of a score first guard in high school. So I don't really think it affects too much of him. I think if anything, it'll benefit him just because he can kind of play off of the ball a lot more if some of these other point guards do come in.
Any other news expected to come up? Where are we with just had the Noah Clowney visit? Not a lot has been talked about with that. How did that visit go? What's the word on the street?
Yep. So got to talk to him. The visit went great. I think the fans really impacted that visit from right when he stepped on campus to when he left. There was basically a whole fan base that followed him kind of around campus all day. And that really left a significant impact with him and his family of how that visit went. And I think that's going to set up Indiana, as these other 3 visits do happen. The bigger thing was having him be able to see kind of what system Mike Woodson would have in place for him. This is kind of the first time that he would actually able to see some sort of college film. He showed him some film of Indiana down in the Bahamas, of what he did with Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, kind of that position that Noah Clowney would play. And it's, again, that freedom where we're going to let your skill set kind of dictate where and how you're going to play. And that's something that really resonated with Noah Clowney, because he's a guy who has now developed his game a lot more over the summer, where he can take some guys off of the dribble on the perimeter. And he's not someone who's just going to sit on the block and be, a 5 to 7 foot big man. He's going to be someone who's going to be in a lot of pick and roll situations and kind of use his athleticism to his advantage. And that's a lot of what you see in the NBA. And that's what Mike Woodson's bringing into college now. And that's what he was able to show him from the Bahamas, and kind of how we use those front court members that they currently have.
Yeah, you can tell, not having tape or to show, not having previous Indiana teams, and not really being able to use the NBA to show. They are relying heavily on what they did in the Bahamas for these recruits to show them each and every position what they can do, what they expect to do, what they hope to do with them, and how they hope to use them at Indiana.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think that's kind of best case scenario, where you don't even have to rely on the past year or the past few years. But Mike Woodson kind of has that cool tool now where he can show them what they've been doing in the Bahamas, or now coming up what they're going to do this year, but then also show them and mix in some clips of some players that he coached in the NBA. And obviously, as a high school player, being able to kind of be compared to an NBA player is something that goes a long way. And only, NBA coaches who have coached at that rank have that ability to show that and kind of resonate more with these players. So I think Mike Woodson has a tremendous tool now of that NBA vision, but also now getting into college and kind of showing the mix and how both kind of mix and match from both ranks.
Pete mentioned this earlier, said Lindsay's Sports has Indiana ranked 7th in basketball. I don't know who these magazines pay guys to do this. I don't know who did Lindy's in the Big Ten for them, but it's someone who's not greatly familiar with Indiana, I'm going to guess. And just kind of basing off of last year, because I'm going to say Indiana's they're a top 4 team. I think they're a top 4 team minimum in what they have going, especially there's other changes in the Big Ten. So that is just lazy reporting right there. That is complete laziness and not being aware of what's going on, in my opinion. But hey, we get to play the season to see what happens. So, but I would be utterly shocked if Indiana finished 7th, even close to that. But we'll see. That's why we play the games, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. No one really knows what Indiana's going to look like. So it's kind of difficult how you're going to judge them based off of some recruiting wins and kind of what they've done in the Bahamas when no one's really been able to see that much. I think they're going to be better than 7th. I think a lot of people, especially after the Bahamas, who were able to kind of see the system that Mike Woodson put in place, they think they're going to be better than 7th. But again, at the end of the day, they still need to go out there and perform. But yeah, I think 7th is way too low for the talent on this team, and also kind of now the expectation that this team has, not so much the outside, but that this team has, how they've been able to kind of mash together and really have expectations coming from the team first, and not so much listening to kind of the outside noise.
Yeah, and Caleb Banks, that's the kid from Louisville Male High School, right?
Caleb
Glenn, rather. I think because of what's going on at Louisville, I think that Indiana has a very, very good chance of landing this kid that they should not have had any chance of getting. I'm going to be surprised if he does not end up at Indiana now, to be honest with you, unless something changes between now and then.
Yeah, I think Indiana's obviously in a good spot, right? Because he kind of narrowed his recruitment down to 4. We'll see if he sticks with those 4 moving forward. But yeah, I mean, you look at the way that Louisville and Indiana have kind of had much different paths and kind of trajectories over the past 3-4 months. And it's difficult to say that Louisville's in the lead anymore, just with everything that's been going on around that program. I think Caleb is really interested now to get back on campus, take those official visits come in this fall, and really kind of get that full atmosphere of what campus is going to be like with students actually there and back. That was a big reason why Caleb Banks took his senior year official visit this past weekend to Indiana, to get that atmosphere, since he didn't get that with students on campus back in June. So I think coming from Caleb Glenn's perspective, a guy who was already on campus, a guy who was blown away by not the facilities but the entire coaching staff, get him back on campus. He's coming back for Hoosiers, but get him back for maybe an official visit as well. And Indiana has a really legit shot of landing him, because he's exactly what that position is that Mike Woodson wants to have on his team, which is that hybrid, super athletic forward who can guard multiple positions, play multiple positions, and do a lot with his versatility and athleticism on the offensive end.
Question from Ross: the Gibbs Longhorn is still in the mix. I don't think so. I haven't heard much about him on the Indiana side of things, but you're closer to it than I am.
Yeah, Indiana's still in contact, but I think with him not playing last year with his foot injury, going out to a prep school in Utah, it's just a much different kind of past 12 months than obviously he wanted to have. But I think that from an Indiana perspective, that they wanted to see from him. Obviously, he was one of those first 2023 offers that went out for Indiana with the previous staff. So there still needs to be some relationship building between the new staff. But I think you look at some of the other point guards that Indiana is now targeting, and some of the kind of development that you've seen with them, like a guy with Jeremy Fears from Illinois, who's now going to be visiting again Indiana for the Cincinnati game, September 18th. So that he's going to be taking a second unofficial to Indiana. And you just look at kind of how they've developed with some of these other point guards, and I think he's kind of fallen in the ranks. Not to say that Indiana does not get back involved with him, because he's still a very talented player, but it's just not at the top of their drawing board for class of 23 point guards at the moment.
And having Jeremy Fears take a second visit, that's big. That you don't usually get that, especially from kids that aren't in-state kids.
Yeah, and he had a tremendous first visit. That's right when he landed that offer as well. So he took that first visit without even having an Indiana offer, and that just shows you kind of their interest in it. He's told me multiple times how excited he was to get on campus, but two, just how blown away he was with the visit with the staff. And again, it comes back to how the staff is connecting with players and what they're putting into place, and that's kind of the groundwork for the future here. And a lot of these kids now want to be part of that first kind of true class with Mike Woodson. Obviously, you have the class of 2022, but you look at CJ Gunn, who was a previous commitment, or Archie Miller. So they're really looking to be kind of that backbone of the future Mike Woodson teams. And there's no better way to do that than be the point guard of a Mike Woodson team at Indiana. And so a lot of these guys, especially like we're talking about Jeremy Fears, just super interested in that potential. So yeah, he'll be back, and that's a big development that happened this week as well.
And that says a lot too with the openings at Iowa. I mean, in Illinois, Illinois could have used a kid like this, but Indiana seems to be much further along with his recruiting than the Illini.
Yeah, he's going to be, so he's visiting Michigan tomorrow, and then he will be taking another visit to Illinois as well. But I think the history, the tradition, the coaching staff at Indiana has definitely pushed Indiana. I don't want to say in the lead in this one, just because it's so early on still, without him taking any official visits. But they're definitely one of those top tier teams in his recruitment at the moment.
And personally, if I were Mike Woodson, I'd have Verdell Jones and AJ Guyton on the horn, giving him a call. Some other pretty well-known Illinois guards, former IU guards from Illinois.
Yeah, it can't hurt.
Yeah, they had a little bit of success at Indiana. But yeah, and nothing against Brad Underwood, but what's he done? Who's he put in the league? They had a good team last year, but they had a good team. They had a good talent. So, yeah, there's nothing he can rely on. He can't say, I got put these guys in the league. I do this. He doesn't have a history either.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you're going to look at is kind of what Mike Woodson can do with the point guards that he currently has and what he does with the class of 2022 guards that are coming in, especially because you did what Underwood did with DeSumo. Obviously, they have Curbelo now too. So we'll see kind of how that trend continues for Illinois, and that could be obviously a huge deciding factor as well. But yeah, I wouldn't say that Brad Underwood has any kind of step up when it comes to developing some of these players at the moment, right? That could all change in the next 12 months. But at the moment, I think you look at the history and tradition and everything that Mike Woodson has, and that kind of sides a little bit more for Indiana, obviously.
I agree with you, man. Looking forward to it. Everything is here or all falling together. Also, the Indiana, Iowa, you've got lots of content on the Hoosier.com. The predictions are up. I got to check those out.
They'll be coming out. They'll be coming out here later this morning for our staff predictions as well.
Being interested, looking forward to seeing that, of course. Other than that, anything that I missed?
Nope, we covered a lot there, and obviously I know you'll be out in Iowa for the game, so we're getting back to Indiana football, Indiana basketball. No better time, especially this year with all the excitement around both programs.
Busy, man. All right, Alec, appreciate you. Alec Lasley, make sure you give him a follow from the Hoosier.com on Twitter at Al Lasley. We're back with more. Brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty. Make sure if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, check out Remax Advanced Realty with Cheryl Sizemore. You can reach her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We're back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
All right, so I don't know. I haven't talked to Matt again.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated with him. I shot him a text this morning, so I'll let you know what he says.
I was supposed to ride with Brockway, and he's staying and speaking Davenport for some stupid reason. He always does something like that.
Because remember he said it would be cheaper, but it's like an hour outside of Iowa City.
It's not cheaper. He's just it's not. I found a place that was less expensive than he has. He wanted to.
Either way, I'll keep you updated with that situation. Let you know what I hear.
But yeah, that's. Have you talked to Keegan?
Yeah, well, a little bit, and then we have a call later today.
All right, just get him. I mean, I don't know if that's something he would do, but be better at not. But we got to get that situation taken care of quickly.
Yep. No.
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Cool. See ya.
See you, brother. Thank you.
See you, John.
See ya. Excuse me.
Exactly.
I wonder if he's watching right now. Sometimes he's watching. He may have seen.
I know.
You just
I hope he is.
him.
But I was like, no, he wanted the stupid Marriott points is what it came down to.
I got you. So they don't.
I'm like, really? That's worth driving an extra.
Wait, so does he have to go past Iowa City to where he's going?
It's an hour before.
Well, I guess that it could be worse.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been bad to do it on Saturday night, but not both. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. Or I should say, I know. I don't want to go to a casino. Or maybe they don't. Ooh, do they have? Go down there and bet the Indiana game.
All right, and go ahead and bring us back in.
Take LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month.
Yep.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, I hope your Friday is going well. It is beautiful out there. That's what you call Chamber of Commerce weather if you're in central Indiana. I checked the forecast in Iowa City yesterday. I think it's going to be pretty similar. I guess I should do that again while I'm sitting here talking about it. But man, last week we had those hot temperatures, it's getting down to the 50s at night now, which is lovely. See what's going on in Iowa City. What the weather going to be like there for this weekend? That's Iowa Falls. I didn't get to finish. But I think it's going to be pretty similar out there. Today, it's raining out there today, which shouldn't affect much, but it's going to rain all day. They have field turf, so shouldn't be an issue. Although there is a 24% chance of rain tomorrow in Iowa City. Let's pull that up and get a little bit more. Hopefully we can get an exact daytime layout of what's what there. It's not doing it for me. It's showing Friday night. I don't want to see Friday night. I want to see Saturday. It's jumping over Sunday. There's Saturday. Cloudy, slight chance of rain. High around 75. Winds northwest 10 to 15 miles an hour. So you're going to have a little breeze, but with that stadium, that shouldn't affect things. Doesn't look like rain's going to be in effect. So this should be a good game. High of 75 out in Iowa City. Man, people be wearing their old college sweatshirts that night. 55 it's getting down to. So that sounds like football weather. Looking forward to it, man. Let's see. David says, Hoosier Nation showed Clowney a lot of love. His mom was definitely impressed. Yeah, talking about that a minute ago. Yeah, I think that that visit made a big difference on her, which is important. But Indiana's basketball recruiting it's in fine shape. I'm telling you. Once they land a couple of these guys, which they are already starting to do, and start winning, that's all that matters. Because then the guys see it on their own. They almost the pitch is done at that point. The only reason that they have to recruit as hard now is to get this set, is to get this foundation set so they can start winning, getting back to they hopefully get that program back to the level where it used to be, where it was competing for Big Ten and national titles year in, year out. And that's the thing. A blue blood school like Indiana should always do that. You're going to have down years, but you've seen Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, and Indiana should have been the same way. Bad coaching bad hires is all it was. That's done. That's over. You've got everybody in the right spot right now, starting at the top. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Scott Dolson will probably end up being, and it's, I'm saying this a year into his tenure, but I bet he ends up being the best, longest tenured and best athletics director in the history of Indiana University. He was trained for that job for so long. and it matters to him. It truly does. He was born into that role. That's an athletics director, not a lawyer, he's an athletics director. He's what Indiana has needed for a long, long time. It makes a difference. We can talk about the coaches, but the right AD makes a gigantic difference. A gigantic difference. And Indiana is already seeing the benefits of that, and I think they're going to continue to see the benefits of that. We can talk about the job that these coaches are doing, but I'm telling you, Scott Dolson is going to be an anchor for Indiana for a long, long time, and they're very fortunate to have him. They have the right coaches in a lot of places right now who seem very happy. Not only do they seem happy, you've got coaches, okay, Mike Whitson, we'll start with basketball. He's not going to go anywhere until he's done. So there's comfort there. There's comfort for the fan base. There's comfort for recruits. There's comfort for players, comfort for season ticket holders, comfort for the staff, comfort for everything. Tom Allen's not going anywhere. He's going to be at Indiana. That's comfort. Comfort for a growing fan base, trying to grow a fan base. Comfort for players. The same comfort. But that's comfort that has never existed for football. And he's doing it while winning, which is a part of an ingredient that you have to have. But he's doing it at a higher level. Women's basketball. They're in a good shape. They're in good shape right now. I can't say that Terry Morin would never leave. She's an Indiana person, but not an IU person. But she's building something. And the thing about building it in the Big Ten, if you build something in the Big Ten, there's no place else you have to go. Now, does that mean there are not better jobs sometimes? Of course. If the UConn job opened up, is that a better job? Well, hell yes. Even Tennessee, places like that. There are just good jobs out there. South Carolina, Baylor, in women's basketball. But baseball, I don't see coaching change there. Another Indiana guy from right down the road. Jeff Mercer's from Bargersville. Women's soccer, that's one that eventually, Coach Van Bredderkom, he's from the Netherlands, and he'll eventually go someplace, probably eventually, but that's okay. If he does, that means that's because the program is successful and it's already showing success right now. So anyway, just it's things are looking good, bright. You've got an Indiana non-con football game sold out. A non-conference game sold out. Has that ever happened? I'm going to guess on the side of no. I don't know that any official statements ever made. I need to get Jeremy Gray back on here. And I know he's not in ticket sales, but he's usually involved in all that, but he would know. But I'm pretty sure that that's a big fat no. The only time you get sellouts is when Michigan, Ohio State comes and they buy a big chunk of tickets and extra fans come. So that in and of itself is a gigantic undertaking for Indiana to sell out a non-con game. And it was fan driven. That was a fan driven thing. You had fans on social media pushing that. And that's good to see. It's good to see people getting involved. But don't go overboard. But yeah, it's the fan involvement is fun. It shows, like we're talking about Noah Clowney. It to a degree, it shows the love, but that there's another side to that. And I'm not talking about Indiana per se here, but when things don't go people's way, fans can be the opposite as well. So that's a knife that has two sides. But hopefully it's going to work much better for Indiana than it has of late, and it certainly is heading that way. Indiana is becoming a place where people from outside, kids from outside. Back in the day, no one playing football was looking at Indiana as a place that they wanted to go to for certain. Now, basketball, yeah, but it was an exclusive club. This is not the kind of recruiting you're seeing Mike Woodson and Dane Fife and Kenya Hunter and Coach Yao doing. They're everywhere. That's not what Bob Knight did. He didn't need to. Most people were wanting to come to Indiana, but it was kids that were mainly from right here in this region. But basketball has gotten bigger as a sport since the Bob Knight era. The AAU circuit is so much bigger now. There are more players to be viewed, more players to be found. You've got the international market that continues to grow. As case in point, the Finnish kid that was offered by Indiana. But Indiana's basketball recruiting is now a much, much, much bigger scope than it was back in Bob Knight's day. Not that it's better, it's just different. Different system. It's college basketball is different. I don't know that Bob Knight could thrive in today's world. His system could. He could as a coach. I just don't know that he could as a person deal with all this crap that's going on, because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it that a lot of people don't want to deal with. But his players, his coaching, his system, oh yeah, that would not have a problem. It's just a different time. You've got so much more turnover in players. I think that his frustration level would grow to the point where it would drive him crazy, because you're having to deal with younger kids more frequently, which means you're having to teach more often, which he was a perfectionist. That's why Indiana was so good. They did things and they did them right. But looking forward to talking to Tom Kakert in the next hour, and Zach Osterman from the Indy Star is going to join us. But we'll talk some more football. Tom Kakert is with the Iowa Rivals, so we're going to get the other side take. I know there's been a lot of responses when when Dustin Schutte and I we talked about the Indiana-Iowa game last week, a week in advance. There was a ton of responses from Iowa fans on social media that we were crazy, didn't know what we were talking about, and I'm like, wow, these Iowa fans, they don't know. They're expecting Indiana of old. They truly are, I think, and this is not that. They're like, well, this Iowa defense and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, well, Indiana led the Big Ten in interceptions, and Indiana led the Big Ten in sacks last year, and Indiana led the Big Ten in opponents' red zone efficiency, and Indiana led the Big Ten in turnovers on defense. And Indiana has this, and it's like they're And I get it. They're an Iowa fan. They're not just like, I don't know Iowa like they do. But I simply think that Indiana is better on both sides of the ball. Iowa's at home. That's going to be a huge, huge advantage. First time back out in front of fans. Looking forward to that. But Zach Osterman's going to join us next. And looking forward to Tom Kakert coming on with us. Lots more from Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're
Hey, is Zach supposed to be brought to you by Yogi's? Wait, tell me when you get back, because I can't really hear you if you're talking. Morning, Zach.
Hey, I apologize. The contractor's finishing my basement just showed up, and I did not know he was coming today. I'll be back in like 90 seconds, but I need to go open it for him.
That's totally fine.
If you guys got to start, I'll duck in as soon as I can. Sorry about this.
Oh, you're good. You're fine, Zach.
All right. Bye.
Excuse me. Hey, Jim, we're back in 30 seconds. Zach's here. I don't know if you heard anything he was saying earlier, but he said he's got like a contractor or somebody in his house, and he had to let him in. He'll be right back. And he may or may not have his camera today. If he doesn't, I'll just put the picture of him up.
Hey,
86th Street in Indy.
What?
Monday. Are we doing a show Monday? It's late.
We can talk about that afterward. I was going to ask you about that.
Dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. It is Friday, and the weekend is upon us. It's actually a holiday weekend. I keep forgetting because it's no holiday for us, but looking forward to it nonetheless. Indiana taking on Iowa in Iowa City tomorrow. College football in full bloom. The Big Ten's in full bloom. Zach, is Zach back yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Zach, how you doing, brother?
Good. How about you?
Cannot complain. Ready for the season to get started. Zach Osterman, of course, from the Indy Star. It's here at Ohio State last night. A game started out. It was a little fun, Minnesota, but Ohio State showing their Ohio Stateness by scoring 5 times in the second half of that game.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess it probably isn't a little bit surprising. I think we've all suspected Ohio State probably lost a little bit more in the talent drain than, I mean, obviously they kind of experience this annually. That's how good they are. But it does feel like last season maybe took a little bit more away. You lost, obviously Justin Fields, but also Trey Sermon, who I think really kind of changed the dynamics of that offense in the second half of last season. You could see how young Ohio State was at some spots on its defense. I thought linebacker in particular. And to Minnesota's credit, that there was a point there early in the game where it kind of looked like Minnesota had maybe kind of had its balloon burst in terms of that emotional wave of first game, and it looked like Ohio State might run away with it. And then they kind of dug their heels in, but the Muhammad Ibrahim injury, which of course did not look good, really I think also kind of deflated the whole sense of the occasion. He's a fantastic running back, and unfortunately it looks like it might be pretty serious. And once he went out, you felt like Minnesota kind of lost its best punch. Unsurprisingly, he was a running back of the year last year. So
yeah, he was doing and having a good game and he was very effective against, actually that was probably their most effective offensive output, which it was opening up the running game or the passing game a little bit for Minnesota. But yeah, you're right. It just it took their punch, a lot of wind out of their sails. But we've got lots to look forward to, heading to Iowa City to watch Indiana take on an Iowa team, number 17 Indiana, number 18 Iowa. The Vegas has this as a 3-point game, which means it's a toss-up. You've got two teams that are very similar that have been kind of, and Indiana has always looked at Iowa as kind of a place, a program to model themselves after. A lot of respect on both sides, but this should be a fantastic game. I think Indiana is better on both sides of the ball a little bit. And I think that's the difference for Indiana, but that's why they play the games.
I think it's possible Indiana is better on both sides of the ball. I think the question I have, and there's sort of the undercurrent question, which is how much of the COVID season was real? And that's not just for Indiana, that's everywhere. How much of a season when everything was weird and everything had to just kind of be thrown out the window. And it really did feel more than usual, like it was kind of, completely sink or swim, basically. You either were going to sort of rally through it and bond together and all buy in and succeed, or it was just going to kind of break everything apart. That's kind of the undercurrent question of the season in general in these first 3 or 4 weeks, not just in Bloomington, but everywhere. I think the question I would have is, I would not be surprised if on aggregate talent, Indiana is slightly better than Iowa. But I do think there are some specific matchups. Michael Penix against that secondary. How much is this offensive line for Indiana improved? Some other pieces like that you can point to and say, well, maybe Indiana's got favorable matchups elsewhere, but they got to win these if they're going to win the game, because it's also, I don't think it's really lost on anyone in Indiana's football facility anyway, that this is going to be the first game for fans back at Kinnick in 2 years. And obviously Kinnick is annually one of the toughest places in the Big Ten to play. Indiana has not won there, I think, since 2007. And before that, I think it had been some time since they'd won there. And so I think you are, I wouldn't be shocked if we could somehow sort of, quantify the level of talent on these rosters if Indiana's slightly better. But I do think that Iowa's got some real advantages going into this game at the same time.
Yeah, defensively, certainly, Indiana has, the running game, up to see what Indiana's running game, has it improved, because Iowa's defensive line is pretty good. So that'll be something. They're going to be trying to get after Michael Penix. They're going to be trying to get to him, of course, because everyone thinks that that's the path to taking Indiana down, is to get to Michael Penix. But I think that the running game is a question to all of us, because we don't know how good Stephen Carr is going to really be, how much has DeLon McCullough brought to this team. I think it's going to be a lot. I think I've said this a lot, that the running game has not hurt Indiana over the last couple of years, but it just hasn't helped them. And I think if it helps them, that is the difference between Indiana being pretty good and really good.
I think that's possible. I mean, I have kind of openly questioned how much Indiana prioritizes the run game. I think I've probably spit this on here before. I know I've said it to other people that, for 5 years, Tom Allen's talked through every offseason about getting better running the ball, and every year Indiana winds up with a pass-heavy offense, and often by design. That said, I think obviously if you could block it up better, that helps. And I think, offensive line improvement has been one of the key question marks of the offseason, preseason camp, et cetera, in Bloomington. I think there's also maybe a little bit of a question of, can you get a slightly more dynamic player back there? Because Stevie Scott was a really solid, dependable, the sort of running back every coach loves to have, in the sense that he always fell forward. He was great on third downs. He was great in short yardage, and he didn't fumble the football. You could always count on him. He was incredibly reliable, but he wasn't very explosive. If you compare him to, players like obviously Tevin Coleman, but even if you think of a player like Jordan Howard, who is still very much a power back, but you could see the difference in the way the NFL sees those two players in Howard's skill set compared to Stevie Scott's. And I'm not trying to do Stevie Scott down. He's still a borderline NFL running back. I mean, think about how many kids run the football annually and how few of them even get a shot at an NFL camp, and he's there. But I think there's also kind of this question of basically, like, Stephen Carr, maybe to some extent Tim Baldwin, does Indiana have a more dynamic player back there that maybe they can look at the run game and see more in it than just saying, well, we've got a running back who doesn't have a lot of dimensions to him. The dimensions that he's got, we know are really, really good and we can count on all the time. But we're also not going to be sitting here planning to be tearing off 10, 12, 15-yard runs, in big chunks, because that's just not the way, he plays the position. So I think that's a little bit of it kind of too, is what does Indiana have at that running back position? Because we really don't know. I mean, Stephen Carr obviously comes with a lot of pedigree, but was never really able to hold on to a position permanently through some injuries and different things at USC. We've seen Tim Baldwin look really good, but that was just one game. And then everybody else behind them is still fairly unproven. If we kind of sort of make David Ellis his own thing, as kind of a hybrid sort of scat back slot guy. So I agree that if Indiana can run the ball better, it will be, it will raise this offensive ceiling. I just think it's hard to forecast that yet.
Absolutely. And then you wonder, will there be any rust with Michael Penix? He's coming off an injury again, but he's used to doing that now, as much as that sucks to say, but he's experienced at coming off of injuries, at getting back into a season after that. He knows the offense better now. He's more comfortable with the guys now. They continue to throw. How much rust do you think that there might be in this first game, or is he past that, do you think?
I think you have to assume there will be some, and I think that's kind of one of the areas where, Iowa's got, first of all, Iowa obviously has a very strong sort of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Identity defensively. Second of all, though, they bring their entire secondary back from last season. And, as much as Indiana's been able to spend the offseason really getting ready for this game, so's Iowa. And they're going to see this from an opportunistic standpoint, I strongly suspect, as, essentially saying, that they've spent an offseason getting ready for a quarterback they don't think will be very sharp, and a quarterback they think maybe they can confuse, maybe they can rattle a little bit. And they're going to have a secondary that I think at very least isn't going to give up stuff cheap. A secondary that's is going to make you be sharp to earn your yards, to earn your catches. And, if we get a Michael Penix who's maybe even just a little rusty, as you said, not even talking about his health, but just his sharpness, I think that's something Indiana's going to have to overcome early in this game. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
And you mentioned this earlier. This is the first time with fans back, and Iowa's a place they love their football. It holds about 70,000, I think. That's a fervent, that's a loud crowd, man. And so Indiana did not play in that situation last year. Michael Penix didn't play in that situation last year. How much do you think that may affect this offense, along with the first game, the rust, coming back from injury, all that? There's a lot of things that Indiana's got to overcome offensively with this game.
I think that's probably where a lot of Indiana's questions lie, really. And I mean, the more you kind of take stock of Indiana defensively, you see their depth, you see their experience. If and I said this to someone yesterday, if it's very easy to see the flaws and weaknesses of the team that you cover because they're 1 foot away from you, metaphorically speaking. Whereas the team that they're playing is 10,000 feet away, and all you can really see is just a sort of a bird's eye view. If we turn the table around and we were Iowa, we were analyzing Iowa's chances in this, we'd probably be looking at this Indiana defense and saying they've got multiple All-Americans. They got juniors and seniors starting pretty much everywhere. This is a defense that led the league in turnovers forced last season, led the league in sacks last season, shut out Michigan State at Michigan State, held Wisconsin to 6 points in Camp Randall, held Michigan to 13 yards rushing over 4 quarters. Even made Justin Fields look pretty average at times and didn't lose a ton. Now, they did lose a couple key pieces. Jamar Johnson, I think, is the big one. That's the one I'm going to be looking at and saying, how do they fill that hole? How do they compensate for not having him at the back end? But at the same time, if we're kind of in Iowa's shoes or let's say Iowa media's shoes, and we're looking at this game, we're thinking, man, that is a really, really good looking Indiana defense, not the Indiana defense that we've grown accustomed to seeing down the years. They're deep, they're talented, they're experienced, they believe in themselves. I think a lot of Indiana's question marks coming into this game are on the offensive side of the ball. How does that line prepare? Who outside Ty Freifogel can be a real sort of consistent security blanket for Michael Penix? The reality is, if you go back and look at Indiana's numbers last season, obviously Freifogel was a huge piece for Michael Penix. Watt Fillier was a huge piece for Michael Penix. And then from there, it was kind of by committee. And that's not abnormal. It's not abnormal for 2 or 3 guys to be kind of your primary targets and then everything else to get scattered around the guys behind them. But one of those 2 guys is gone now, and the other one presumably is going to get a lot of attention early on because that Iowa defense is going to be saying, okay, well, can Peyton Hendershot still be a weapon for Indiana? Is Miles Marshall ready to go from being a decent third option to a really, really good second option? Who's going to step into that slot role? A player, obviously an example, an example would be someone like DJ Matthews. But, if you look at Indiana's numbers last season, Watt Fillier had 91 targets and 54 catches. Ty Freifogel had 70 targets and 37 catches. Nobody else had more than 40 targets, and nobody else had more than 23 catches. And only Peyton Hendershot, the only other player with more than 20 catches was Peyton Hendershot. So there's talent there. We know Peyton Hendershot's a good tight end. I've been banging the drum all season or all off season that I think Miles Marshall can be a really, really good complementary piece at the boundary receiver slot on the other side to Ty Freifogel. But you got to see it. And, and putting it all together, you don't get this first game against somebody like Idaho to play really vanilla and just work on a lot of concepts and let everybody get comfortable. You're going to be playing one of the toughest defenses in the Big Ten in a tough environment on the road. They're going to be able to challenge your quarterback who might be rusty. They're going to be able to challenge your offensive line, which badly needs to have improved. from a season ago. It's just, you need to, if you're Indiana, you need to be, I think you need to be sharp on that side of the ball, but I think it's also kind of the area that you're looking at and saying, what exactly do we have here? What exactly we're going to find out. Indiana's going to find out quickly how good it can be on offense. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, I think great teams are teams, and you've hit on a great point there. They've been a little narrowed in their focus offensively, and to be great, you've got to really spread the field and have a lot of options because you've got to spread that defense. And like I said, the running game hasn't offered a lot. Nick Sheridan he's still growing in this role. He's still a relatively young offensive coordinator, so he's still growing. You've got that going, but I think that, and hopefully the offense continues to grow. But yeah, there's a ton of talent, and hopefully they can use it. The Cincinnati game, I want to get on that real quick before you got to go. Sellout. How big is that? That I mentioned earlier, without doing any research, has to be the first and only time a non-con game has ever sold out at Indiana, and especially this far in advance. Definitely in my memory, but I can't imagine a time in Indiana football where they would have sold out a non-con game like in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first piece is, and I don't say this to do Indiana down. It's not like Indiana goes looking for schools of Cincinnati's profile. What Cincinnati's profile is now in the non-conference. Indiana in the non-conference, when it looks for those sort of Power Five or sort of big time group of 5 games, it's still looking for schools that it probably considers sort of relative peers. Louisville, Mizzou, who else have we seen Indiana play in the recent past? UConn. It's not like Indiana's trying to get perennial top 10 teams in here. It's just that Cincinnati was put on the schedule years ago and now has become one.
Yeah.
Obviously also you imagine the sellout has a little bit to do with Cincinnati's proximity and maybe sending some fans over as well. But I can't escape, and I don't think it's completely boom or bust, but, I've said many times in the last few weeks, I think the biggest game on Indiana's schedule is Iowa, because I think the opportunity that it presents if Indiana can find its way to winning it is substantial. And I think that you can really, in some respects, extend that discussion on to Cincinnati as well. If Indiana, it won't be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but if Indiana could find its way to winning both of these games, then the road is open to, at worst, being 5-1 when Ohio State comes into town in mid-October. And that's when you can kind of start. I'm not saying Indiana's going to be in the playoff or anything like that, but that is when you can kind of start dreaming some bigger dreams, and talking about, like literally talking about ESPN Game Day being in town Saturday night on ESPN, being the talk of college football for the week, and not like last season where it was kind of Indiana's a great story and how are they going to do against Ohio State, but genuinely sort of being like, well, this is the game of the season in the Big Ten. And if Indiana wins it, they're in control of their own destiny going through the back half of their schedule. And if you lose both these games, the season's not over by any means. But if you lose both these games, then I think there's a world where you're staring at 2-3 coming out of Penn State, a pretty convincing world in the end. And then all of a sudden you do have to recalibrate ambitions just a little bit. And so the challenge of this schedule is that it is so front loaded. That is, in a weird way, the opportunity of this schedule, because if Indiana can find its way through a couple of these tests and get out of Penn State, let's say 4-1, you look at those last 7 games, even though it includes a trip to Michigan, even though it includes a trip to Ohio State, Indiana can really start thinking about, okay, what's the calculus for us to compete in the Big Ten East? And that's the opportunity these 2 games present.
Looking forward to it, man. I know you got to get going so you can head to Iowa City. I'll be doing the same, but we're going to have Tom Kakert from Rivals Iowa join us next. Thanks, Zach. Cannot thank you so much. Have a safe trip out there, man.
Will do. You too. We'll see you out there, Jim.
Yes, sir. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us. Make sure you give him a follow. We're back with Tom Kakert from Iowa. Right, I keep saying Indiana Rivals. From Iowa Rivals right after this to preview the Indiana-Iowa football game.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking...
I keep wanting to say Indiana rivals, man. I cannot get that I out. Hey, Tom, how are you, brother?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm on my headset kind of in remote on my phone, so hopefully it'll sound okay.
There's a little bit of an echo wherever you're at. I don't know if you're able to move somewhere where there's less echo, but we can hear you fine, but there's a little bit of echo feedback.
Yeah, I'm in a room. Let me see if I can get outside, and maybe it'll be less echo. Okay, is this better? Does that sound better?
Yeah, there's no echo there. That sounds good.
Okay, good.
Where are you? Are you at school?
No, I'm actually down at the YMCA.
Oh, working out.
I was getting a little exercise in. I got some stuff to do this afternoon, so that was out. So I'm trying to squeeze it in this morning.
It's supposed to rain there all day today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's spitting a little bit right now.
All right, we got about a minute until we come back.
I'm right down by the Mississippi River, so.
That's cool. Wait a minute. Are you in?
I'm in the Quad Cities, so I'm not.
I was going to say, you can't be in Iowa City, man. Wait a minute. I'm not the greatest at geography, but I'm like, wait a minute. The Mississippi River does not go through the middle of Iowa.
No, it does not.
So how far are you from Davenport?
I am sitting in Davenport right now.
So that's part of the Quad Cities. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, 10 seconds. Coming back.
Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. It is Friday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Happy to be joined by Tom Kakert again. He's been on with us before from Iowa Rivals. Tom, how are you, man?
Doing well.
He's out in the Quad Cities right now. So he's just down the road from Iowa City on the Mississippi River. He's not gambling. He's working out. Getting that early morning workout in, man. It's impressive getting out there and getting with it.
Yeah, gotta get my exercise in. Helps me keep sanity, I think.
Well, a busy weekend ahead, I know, because I'm sure you'll be busy as always. But this is a big game to open the season for anybody. It's big for Iowa. It's big for Indiana. It's big for the Big Ten. You've got a top 20 matchup. You've got two teams that desperately need a good start. Iowa, because they didn't have a good start last year, and they're wanting to try to win the Big Ten West. Indiana wants to be a player in the Big Ten East, and you can't lose any games in conference play, but this is one that Indiana really wants to. Zach was on with us earlier. Man, this would catapult them. Iowa could lose this game and still survive because I think the Big Ten West is just a little weaker. It's going to offer a little more opportunity, but man, Indiana needs that because you come back with a Cincinnati game that it wouldn't count against them, but you can't lose that from an emotional standpoint. It's a huge game. And to say that Iowa, Indiana is a huge game, that is not something we've been able to say a lot before.
Yeah, when this was on the schedule initially, I thought, okay, Big Ten game, but Indiana kind of thing. And now it's a top 20 matchup. And you talk about Indiana having a big start with Cincinnati. Iowa has Iowa State next week in Ames, and that's a top 10 team. So this is a gigantic start for Iowa, and the Hawkeyes looking for motivation. If they would have started better last year, they would have been in Indianapolis. If they don't lose a 1-point game to Northwestern in the second game at Kinnick Stadium, they would have been playing for a Big Ten championship last year. So there's your motivation. It's just it's a huge game for both teams. Iowa coming off winning 6 in a row to end the season. Indiana, I think, has kind of they've got a chip on their shoulder, it seems like, just to kind of show everybody, hey, last year was not a fluke. This is who we are now and moving forward under Tom Allen. So I think it's a big statement game for both programs.
It absolutely is. And like I said, there are different reasons. A lot of respect. Tom Allen has tons of respect for Kirk Ferentz, and obviously most people do, but Iowa's a program that I think that Indiana fans have looked at. It's so consistent. It's just good. There's no problems generally. They win. They're always in a bowl game. That's some place that I think Indiana's looked at that would like to emulate that. And now they want to exceed that, beat that. And they're on the precipice of being able to do that, but you've got to win these games. They went to Nebraska 2 years ago and won that game. While that was not a top 20 matchup, the importance of winning that game underlies there, and that same importance is here. There are just a lot more things going along with this game.
Yeah, it is a big game for both teams. Indiana is just they caught everybody off guard last year, I think, with what they were able to do, and it's interesting you mentioned that Tom Allen talked about trying to emulate Iowa. That's been kind of a mantra from a lot of different places. It's either Iowa or Wisconsin that schools try to emulate in the Big Ten, because you're not getting Ohio State recruits or Michigan recruits, but you're building a solid program that's there every year, contending for a Big Ten championship, going to bowl games, going to nice New Year's Day bowl games every year. And that's kind of what, in Indiana or, even Northwestern's like that now too, under Fitz most years. They're pretty consistently in there. That's what everybody's looking to do. That's what Minnesota's looking to do. Illinois, Brett Bielema is going to try and do that moving forward in Champaign. So it's kind of the model program right now.
I think the Big Ten is poised to be better this year. Maybe not. I don't know if Iowa State or Ohio State is going to be as good as they were last year. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But as a whole, I think the Big Ten Conference is going to be better. Penn State is better. I think Minnesota is better. Illinois obviously is better. Iowa, I don't know if they're better or not. They were already good. Wisconsin, we're going to wait to see what they do. Purdue has to be better. Indiana is better. I think Rutgers is better. Maryland is better. We'll have to see if Michigan State, a lot of talk about them improving. Have to see what the Harbaugh gets done. But as a whole, I think this conference is better this year than it was last year, and they were pretty good.
Yeah. It might take Ohio State a little bit of time with the new quarterback and everything to kind of hit their stride. But boy, they just got so much talent on that team. And, they're just recruiting at an elite level that nobody else in the Big Ten Conference is even touching. So they're going to be fantastic. But you're right. Penn State's not going to start off 0-5 this year. They're just not. And that's going to, they're going to be back to being Penn State. I think out of all the schools, the one that you wonder about is Michigan. If Michigan turns back into Michigan again, then boy, everybody starts paying attention to the Big Ten again and saying, boy, this is a really deep and talented league. But you got to have your kind of your flagships be good. Wisconsin will be back to being Wisconsin. It ended last year. Wisconsin wasn't a great team. I mean, Iowa came in and pretty much dominated them late in the year. 28-7 game, and Wisconsin just didn't look all that interested in being at Kinnick Stadium that day. So, this is going to be, a grinder of a league this year. And I like that there's some Big Ten games in week one. I think that makes this even more interesting as a league this year.
Oh, it's definitely going to make it more fun for the fans. But yeah, I agree. It makes it more exciting as a league because it changes things. You don't get – some teams don't get those 3 games like they used to warm up and get ready. You got to get after it now. And if you watch the Ohio State-Minnesota game last night, you saw, man, that game was kind of back and forth until Ohio State flexed their muscles and scored 5 second-half touchdowns. Which is what they normally do with a freshman quarterback, no less, 19-year-old kid. Man, a 19-year-old kid they had out there doing that. That's the difference. That's Ohio State. I mean, usually they have 3 guys in the wings waiting, but this year they're doing it with a 19-year-old freshman.
Took him a half to kind of get his legs under him, and then it helps when you got Chris Olave and you got the running back stable that they have. And the question about Ohio State, I think, is going to be, how does that defense develop? If it develops well and they can become a better defensive team, then look out, because they're going to, they hung 40 plus points on Minnesota last night, and it didn't look like they played all that great. And that just tells you how good they are.
Yeah, 5 second-half touchdowns. But let's talk about what the game we're going to be watching. Indiana at Iowa. We've talked about it, but to really break it down, Indiana, I think Indiana is better on both sides of the ball than Iowa. They're definitely better than they were in that Indiana was last year on both sides of the ball. But I think they're a little bit better defensively, and that's saying something because Iowa has a tremendous defense. They haven't given up more than 25 points in, was it 21 or 22 games?
22 games.
Great secondary. Indiana has added depth and talent to their the difference has been guys like Ryder Anderson that has transferred in from Ole Miss. The couple transfers they've gotten, that has just really stiffened that defense. And they're good from front to back. And that is, to me, the difference. It's not huge, but there's a difference. And offensively, Petrus I think he's a good game manager, but he is not the dynamic quarterback that Michael Penix can be and is, and he's completely healthy at the moment. So Indiana's got to find a way to integrate. I was talking with Zach, more options into their offense. They were pretty prolific as an offense, but the running game was a compliment at best, and Ty Freifogel and Whop Phillier were the 2 big targets. So I think they need to expand their options a little bit, and I think the running game has got to show up. But I think that's going to be different this year with Delon McCullough coming into the fold, and they have Stephen Carr, the USC transfer. So I think that they put the pieces in place to elevate what they needed to elevate, and that's why I think that I think I would pick Indiana if I was betting to win the game.
Yeah, it's what's the line's 3.5 right now. I think home field's going to be a big deal. Just getting the fans back in Kinnick, I think that's worth something. Probably worth the edge. I'd agree with you in some respects. The big questions for Iowa. Here's the secret sauce for Iowa. It all starts up front on both sides of the line. When Iowa's good up front, when they're able to run the ball and stop the run, they're generally going to win 8, 9, 10 games in a season. That's and that's kind of what they probably would have done last year because they were really good up front, with Davion Nixon being defensive player of the year in the conference, and Jack Heflin. They had 3 guys last year on their defensive line that are now on NFL rosters. Jack Heflin made the Packers roster. Chauncey Dolson and Davion Nixon were both NFL draft picks. So they've that's what they're missing. It's a lot of young guys on the defensive line. Can they hold up? Can they stop the run? Can they get pressure on Michael Penix? Can they contain him so he doesn't extend plays with his legs? I think that's going to be a huge key to this game. On the offensive side, Kirk Ferentz said that Iowa's probably going to maybe play up to 8 different guys on the offensive line. That's weird for Iowa. It's usually maybe they'll rotate one guy in, but they've got a great center, All-American Tyler Linderbaum. He's the best in the country this year. But they're breaking in 2 new starting tackles. One of their starting guards is out. Kyler Schott is out. Before fall camp started, he was back home on the farm. You'll enjoy this story. He was back on the farm with his family and baling some hay, and he jumped off a 6-foot-high hay bale and broke his foot. So he's only in Iowa would that happen, right? Jumping off a hay bale. But he's done hundreds. I've done it hundreds of thousands of times, and this time the foot breaks. So that's a veteran guard that's out. So probably Justin Britt, the kid from Indiana, is going to start in his place. So that'll be a big deal for him. But if Iowa can run the ball and stop the run, Iowa's probably going to win. If they struggle with either of those two things because of the questions that they have on both lines, then Indiana has a real chance to win the game.
Yeah, it's the lines. You're right. Indiana's offensive line, they're back. They're pretty experienced. The depth, you gotta be deep. That's what they have to worry on. But I wonder for Indiana if they may get an advantage defensively. Their defensive line experienced, and like I said, they've added some quality pieces. And if Iowa is running in some inexperienced guys, that may offer in Indiana an opportunity to get to the quarterback. They led the league in sacks last year, and I'm sure that they would like to do the same again this year.
And the other thing is Indiana brings a lot of pressure too, a lot of blitzing. McFadden will come, and that's a concern with an offensive line that's going to be rotating guys in. That's going to be maybe a little inexperienced at tackle. Is that communication and that continuity there that you need on the offensive line? If it's not, then Spencer Petras is going to face a lot of pressure and not be able to complete his throws, potentially some turnovers. That was the bugaboo last year, early in the year. That I go back to that Northwestern game where he threw 3 interceptions in the second half, and that cost him the game. Iowa was cruising in that game, and then Northwestern ends up coming back to win by 1 point.
That's Spencer Petras. That's another. This is his first season of playing in front of a crowd as well, right?
Yeah. This is he became kind of a lightning rod, right or wrong, last year. To defend Spencer a little bit, he was coming in as the starting. He was going to be the starter last year, regardless. I don't think anybody was going to push him after Nate Stanley graduated. But no spring ball. Iowa didn't even get one spring practice in. He was, the camp, fall camp, if you will, whatever, wasn't anything close to being normal that you would see. And he had been, just because of contact tracing last year, he spent about 30 days quarantined in the summer. So those are 30 days he wasn't even out there available to go throw around or do anything. He was just stuck in his apartment. So those things kind of set him back. And I think, Kirk Ferentz has mentioned that, other people who know much more about football than I do. I do a podcast with Chuck Long, former Iowa quarterback, and Chuck mentioned that was a huge deal. He said, "Oh boy, it's just all those things," and he got better at the end of the year. He was completing 60+% of his passes. He had 6 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last 3 games. So he did develop. Now it's taken that next step. He started working with a quarterback coach from New Jersey. Went to see him twice. He thinks that helped him. He also was working with a psychologist, kind of trying to relax more as a quarterback, and that was kind of his issue. I think he was running a little tight with the throws, and everybody says he's relaxed now. And if he's good, then I think Iowa's offense can really be good. Tyrone Tracy, an Indiana kid, is going to be his top target, and I know Tyrone's really fired up about this game, so this will be a big moment for him.
A lot of Indiana kids on that Iowa team playing a role. We got someone asking, can you ask how Deonte Craig is doing?
Yeah, Deonte Craig is doing well. He'll probably be in the rotation at defensive end. He's not going to start, but he's coming along. He's listed as in the two deeps now. So I think you'll see him out there a good amount on Saturday, especially in pass rush situations.
I mean, last year you had the transfer from Indiana.
Coy Cronk.
But it's just kind of weird to have those Indiana kids. Who are they? You mentioned that's probably going to play on the offensive line.
Oh, Justin Britt, an Indianapolis kid. They really made a focus of getting Indiana, over the past few years. So, they've made it an emphasis, and a few of those guys are coming along real well.
Yeah, that's been a problem. That's another thing for Indiana. Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan coming in and always grabbing the big guys. And that's something that Indiana they had not been able to make a difference at, because why would you before? Why would you not go to Iowa or Michigan or Ohio State? Now they're finally giving kids a reason or an option to stay home and play here as opposed to that. And you've got to be able to do that to build a program. You've got to be able to keep some of these kids and not lose them to the Ohio States or Iowas of the world. But man, I'm looking go ahead.
No, I was disagreeing with 100%. You got to control your borders. You got to get your best kids. That's Iowa's battle now with, Matt Campbell and the Cyclones is trying to get the best kids in state. And for a lot of years, Iowa State didn't even really recruit the state of Iowa very hard. And now Matt Campbell and company are trying to really do that and match Iowa.
Yeah, and that's a good program out there. They've had success, so that makes it difficult too. So, it's just become better and better out there. Speaking of the Big Ten West, Iowa, to me, I don't know. I haven't seen Wisconsin yet. So Iowa's always good. Iowa's always going to be a team considered to win. Wisconsin, little question mark. Is this the year for Iowa to win the West again?
It could be. It might come down to that Iowa game at Madison in November. Iowa's got back-to-back at Northwestern, at Wisconsin in November, and that's the road to Indianapolis for Iowa. It's going to travel through Evanston and through Madison.
But how important does that make a game like this? Even though it's not a divisional game, it still counts against you, which I don't understand. It's stupid to me. It's ridiculous to do that. But this is a game that's like, man, because you got to focus on your league games, but this counts just as much.
Yeah, and Iowa's other crossover game is they go to Maryland, and it's on a Friday night. So that's a tricky spot too, just because it's a Friday night game and you're traveling halfway across the country. It's just it's going to be challenging. So Iowa's got to be ready and aware. And every game is big, and especially for Iowa this year, because these first two games are just gigantic. You want to get off to a good start, so you want to win against Indiana, and then in week 2, you're facing a really good Iowa State team. And Matt Campbell in Iowa State is 0-5 against Kirk Ferentz and the Hawkeyes.
I did not know that. Wow. Great stat there. Tom Kakert from Iowa Rivals taking the time to join us today, preview on the Indiana-Iowa game. Tom, I cannot thank you enough, man. I appreciate you. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow in the press box. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, brother. Tom Kakert from Iowa Rivals joining us here to preview the Indiana-Iowa game tomorrow. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks. We'll see you tomorrow, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Take care. Bye.
That was good.
Yeah, that was really good. That'll be a really good clip.
I didn't hit the Reynolds thing.
You can do it coming back if you want, because I guess I'll switch up the segments. So
you can switch it, but fine. I'll say it.
That's fine, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, by the way, since we've got a couple minutes and we were talking, and if you decide we want to do another best of for Monday, you may want to go ahead and say that as we wrap up today. Do we want to go ahead and talk about that right now, or do you want to do a live show?
What's that?
For Monday, for Labor Day, are we going to do another best of show to send to the station, or are we going to do a live show? I'll leave it up to you. I don't know if you're going to have guests for Monday or if they're going to want to be off, but I'll let you make the call, obviously.
Oh. I don't want to do one, to be honest with you. I want to take a freaking holiday off.
And I think that's how it should be. in
Saturday
any company,
and Sunday, I'm already working 7 days a week.
And you're going to be driving back, so you'll want that extra rest, I'm sure, anyway. So,
the only reason I asked because Don was asking.
Can you move him to Tuesday, or are you just not going to? Okay, yeah, just move him to Tuesday. So yeah, and you may, or if you don't want to, I can let Charlie know that we're taking off, and Jim Reamer that we're taking off Monday, and I'll put together a best of show for the station.
Yeah, ask Charlie if he can maybe join us at any time during the week, whenever there's another day he could join us.
I will do that. So that's what we're doing. Best of show for Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I tell you though, the best of, you can maybe squeeze in some new stuff from this weekend.
Yeah, if I can, I'll wait till Sunday to put it together. So I'll see if we have something good from the from the post game.
And if I can cut ins and outs or anything like that needs to be.
Okay.
Don't forget to let the station know.
Yeah, I'll send them a text when we finish up.
I'm sending this to Don now.
All right. We're coming. By the way, you still have, if you want to use them, you have clips. We only got 9 minutes, but we're coming back now.
At Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. It is Friday, TGIF. Man, it's been a fun show, as always. You guys make it fun. Thanks a lot for joining us. Had a great lineup today. Tom Kakert just joined us from Indiana Rivals. Fun as always. Alec Lasley, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com. Make sure you go to the Hoosier.com for coverage of this weekend's Indiana game all over the place. Looking forward to that. I think it's going to be just an outstanding weekend. The weather is outstanding. I am so happy to be watching college football again. Tonight, don't forget, lots of high school games, man. Go out and support your high schools around. Some great games. You got that Carmel Center Grove game. That's tonight. That's a biggie. Man, I promise you, if I wasn't leaving and heading west after the show, I would be heading up there tonight for certain. I know Wyatt, who listens here, is going up there. I know several people will be going there. Thanks a lot, Donald. Appreciate you listening to us down in Georgia. Still got to get that visor to you, brother. Don't worry, it's on my list. Let's see. Ross asked, will Indiana release the travel squad? Always curious for the first road game. You know, I don't know that they do that in advance. That's a good question. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look to see if I've gotten an email yet. But I don't recall ever having that released like that in advance. I'll be honest with you. So my answer is probably no. I mean, That's probably no. That's part of the secrecy that they like to keep. When they talk about if a guy is hurt and they say, oh, that's going to be a game time decision. Love that secrecy, man. Gamesmanship, a little bit of gamesmanship. Chris asking, are you guys going to do something after the game on YouTube? I think so. Going to try to do, even though this is a road game, which makes it more difficult. I know there'll be a lot of fans there. I'm going to try to do something before the game as well and send it out, whether it's live or not. I'm not sure. I may just record it and send it out. But I want to try to get something done beforehand. Hopefully see if there's there'll be some Indiana fans there, I know, but can't be a lot because those Iowa fans are not going to let loose very many of those tickets. I would love to know how many season ticket holders Iowa football has, if that information is available, because I promise you it's a lot. There's nothing else to do in Iowa. And it's not a slam, it's just the truth. So that's allows them to grow that. I'm still trying to get how many season ticket holders for Iowa. Iowa State has sold 47,000 season tickets. That's Iowa State, man. Oh, man, that is blowing my mind. That's the prices. I don't want the prices. How much are they? That's Iowa State. How many season ticket holders for Iowa football? It's not telling me. It told me for Iowa State. That's I'd sure like to know that. But if Iowa State has 47,000, I'm just guessing that Iowa has more. So is that same? Somebody can look that up while I'm busy here, but holy cow. The reason that's Memorial Stadium at Indiana holds what, 52,000? Iowa probably has more season ticket holders than that. Kinnick Stadium holds around 70. I'd say 50,000 of those or more are season ticket holders, which is the reason why you're not going to have.
It's looking like Iowa, the Hawkeyes, the University of Iowa has sold 48,000. Did you say that was Iowa State as well? Or what did they sell?
No, there was like 47,000.
Yeah, so Iowa has sold 1,000 more than them.
Wow. So that's 48,000 season ticket holders. So that cuts down the availability of your ticket options. One of the reasons why there won't be many. But, and then in the bowl game 2 years ago, or last year, I guess. No, it was the one against Tennessee. I remember thinking Indiana had a great contingent until we got into the game. And I was like, oh, wow. But it's still growing. All this was about, I don't know how many Indiana fans will be able to make the trip to get in. But there will be a few spattered about. So, and this all started because someone asked if I was going to do something after the game. So I'm going to try to do something regardless. There'll be something to report. And if Indiana wins, well, that makes it a lot more fun and a lot more to talk about. Hopefully we can get some people on to do that. But yeah, heading down to the game soon as we're done here. I hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy. Go out and watch some high school football tonight. For one thing, a lot of great games out and about. Thank everybody for joining us on the program today. Alec Lasley, like I said, cannot thank him enough. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, he's getting ready to take off to Iowa City as well. And Tom Kakert from Iowa Rivals. Cannot thank those guys enough for joining us, but you guys are the most important. We still got a little time left. I'm not jumping off too
And
early.
don't forget, we're going to have, if you're listening on the radio side of things, on Monday, there will be a best of show instead of a live show. And we may or may not have things from the Iowa game that's yet to be determined. But if you're listening on radio, that's what you can expect on Labor Day.
Yeah, hopefully we will get stuff put in there for that, hopefully. So it'll be a semi best of up to date. Still kind of way to good way to do that, right? Yes, I was.
Yeah, sorry. I muted my mic. I didn't realize you were going to go back to me.
That's
But yeah,
right.
it's
hey,
good
man,
to
I
have.
forgot to mention Psalms. Make sure you get out to Psalms restaurants in the Indianapolis area. They bring a lot of our guests to you, like Matt Taylor and Chris Denari and those guys. Get up and check them out. They're also here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Clubhouse. So check out Psalms restaurants and stop in and have a big lug. They've got the Big Lug Cantina. But, man, I cannot thank you guys enough. It has been a great week, and football is here. Let's go. Kick it off. I'm going to Iowa. Guys, I can't thank you all enough. It's been a fun week. Thank you so much. Thanks to producer John. Thanks you all most of all. We'll be back. Look tomorrow for more updates and information. I'll be putting that stuff out. But until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.